two people, same age, 32, same city, same $60,000 saved, same $60,000 salary. One of them buys a rental property, the other puts every dollar into the stock market. 10 years from now, one of them is going to look back and feel like a genius. The other one is also going to be sitting on real money, but almost nobody talks about what it actually cost him to get there. Here's the problem with basically every real estate versus stocks video you've ever watched. Somebody already picked a side before they ran a single number. The landlord crowd says cash flow is king. The index fund crowd says compounding beats everything. Neither one is lying to you. Both of them are just leaving out the parts that make their side look worse. This isn't going to be that video. We're running the actual math, the numbers that make it onto the thumbnail, and the ones that quietly disappear by the time tax season rolls around. By the end of this, you'll know which one actually wins, why the honest answer isn't as clean as either side wants it to be, and how to tell which one fits your actual situation. Before we get into the numbers, if you're the kind of person who wants the real version of these comparisons instead of the highlight reel, this channel breaks these topics down completely. Real math, no agenda. Subscribing means you catch these before they disappear into your feed. Let's set the scene. Priya and Daniel, both 32, both living in the same mid-sized city, both sitting on exactly $60,000 in savings, and both bringing home the same $60,000 salary. The only thing that's about to be different between them is what they do with that $60,000, and that one decision is going to play out very differently over the next 10 years. Priya takes her $60,000 and uses it as a 20% down payment on a $300,000 rental property, a two-bedroom townhouse in a decent part of town. Her mortgage is a 30-year loan at 7%, which puts her monthly payment at just under $1,600. She finds a tenant fast and locks in $2,200 a month in rent. On paper, that's $600 a month in cash flow before a single expense hits. Priya feels like she just solved money. She tells her sister she drives past the property some mornings just to look at it. Daniel takes his $60,000 and puts it straight into a total stock market index fund. No tenants, no leases, no story for Thanksgiving dinner. He sets up an automatic transfer of $400 a month and does not log in again for a while. When people ask what he's investing in, he says index funds, and the conversation moves on. Nobody's impressed. Day 1, Daniel has $60,000 in a confirmation email. That's the whole experience. This is the part almost nobody mentions in these comparisons, how different these two investments actually feel. Priya's is visible. It's a building. She can point at it. Daniel's is a number on a screen that means nothing to anyone he tells about it. That difference in how it feels is going to quietly influence decisions both of them make for the next 10 years. And feelings, as we're about to see, are not free. Now let's get to year 3, because this is where the story stops being a feeling and starts being a spreadsheet. Priya has collected $79,200 in rent over 3 years. Her mortgage payments total roughly $57,000. That leaves $22,200 in gross cash flow, and that's the number she'd put on a thumbnail. Here's what comes out of it before she keeps a cent. Property taxes around $3,600 a year, so about $11,000 over 3 years. Insurance near $1,800 annually, another $5,400. A water heater failed in year 2, $1,100. She had 3 weeks of vacancy between her first and second tenant, $1,300 in lost rent. She manages the property herself, which means weekend showings and a 9 p.m. call about a garbage disposal, unpaid. After everything real, Priya's actual net cash flow over 3 years lands somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000, not $22,000. Daniel, meanwhile, has contributed $60,000 plus $14,400 in monthly deposits. At a 10% average annual return, his portfolio sits around $92,000. 0 repairs. 0 phone calls. But Priya has something Daniel doesn't. Leverage. $60,000 controlling a $300,000 asset. After modest appreciation, that property is now worth roughly $325,000, and her equity has grown to somewhere near $75,000. That 5-to-1 leverage is the single biggest reason real estate builds wealth faster than people expect, and it's exactly why this comparison never stays simple. If this is already more specific than the usual real estate versus stocks video, that's the point of hitting like right here. It's the fastest way to tell me this kind of breakdown is worth doing again. Let's talk about the real estate costs that never make it into the pitch. Vacancy. The average rental sits empty somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks a year. That's real income gone, not hypothetical. Maintenance and repairs run 1 to 2% of the property's value annually. On a $300,000 house, that's $3,000 to $6,000 a year, and some years it's a $200 fix. Other years it's an $8,000 HVAC replacement in the middle of July. Capital expenses are the quiet killer. Roofs, furnaces, water heaters, all guaranteed to fail eventually, all landing in $5,000 to $15,000 chunks. If you're not setting money aside for that every single month, you're not investing, you're gambling with a delayed bill. Property management, if you hire it out, is 8 to 10% of rent, gone immediately. If you don't hire it out, you're working an unpaid part-time job. And a bad tenant who stops paying and knows the eviction timeline can cost 3 to 6 months of lost rent plus legal fees, enough to erase an entire year of profit in one event. By year 7, Priya is on her second tenant, has replaced a furnace for $6,000, and her actual cash-on-cash return after every real cost is sitting around 4 to 6%. Solid. But nowhere near the number she quoted at dinner 2 years ago. Daniel's portfolio, still on autopilot, has grown to somewhere around $160,000 to $180,000. He didn't pick stocks. He didn't time anything. He just didn't touch it. We're about to get to the 10-year numbers, and one small change to Daniel's strategy alone shifts the entire outcome. So if you want to see exactly what happens when he tweaks just one number, make sure you're subscribed before we get there. Now, in fairness, let's be honest about the other side too, because a video that only rips into real estate is doing exactly what every stock market influencer already does. Volatility is real. In 2008, the total market dropped close to 37%. In March 2020, it fell 34% in about 4 weeks. If Daniel had $150,000 in his account and watched it drop to $95,000 in a single month, that is genuinely hard to sit through, and most retail investors don't sit through it. They sell at the bottom and buy back in after the recovery, locking in the exact loss the strategy was supposed to avoid. There's no cash flow either. A total market fund yields maybe 1.5% to 2%, which on $150,000 is about $200 a month, nowhere close to replacing anyone's income, and there's no leverage. Daniel's $60,000 only ever controls $60,000 of assets, while Priya's same $60,000 is controlling 5 times that. If you're finding this more useful than the usual team stocks or team real estate take, that's exactly what the like button is for right here. By year 10, Priya's property is worth somewhere between $380,000 and $410,000. Her mortgage balance has dropped to roughly $210,000, which puts her equity at around $170,000 to $200,000. Her total out-of-pocket spending beyond the original down payment, across a full decade of repairs, vacancies, and surprises, lands somewhere between $18,000 and $32,000. Daniel's portfolio, with his steady $400 monthly contribution, has grown to approximately $190,000 to $210,000. He put in roughly $108,000 total across 10 years. Everything above that is pure compounding. Money his money made without him lifting a finger. At the 10-year mark, they're closer than either of them would guess. Priya is somewhat ahead, mostly because of leverage, but she also took on $240,000 in debt, put her entire investment in one house in one zip code, and spent hundreds of unpaid hours managing it. Daniel spread his money across thousands of companies and never lost a night of sleep over any of it. Here's the one variable that changes everything on Daniel's side. If he raises his monthly contribution from $400 to $600, his 10-year total jumps to roughly $240,000 to $260,000, pulling him ahead of Priya without adding a single ounce of risk or a single extra hour of work. In the stock market, more money in means more compounding, full stop. In real estate, more money in usually means a second mortgage and a second set of 2 a.m. phone calls. So here's the honest verdict. And it isn't one winner. Real estate wins clearly if you're in a market where rent is at least 0.8% to 1% of the purchase price. If you treat it like an actual business with real budgeting for the expenses nobody puts on the thumbnail, and if you have the temperament to handle illiquidity and 2 a.m. calls without it costing you sleep. Index investing wins if what you actually want is simplicity, liquidity, zero management time, and the ability to scale up your investment by literally just increasing a number, with no added complexity at all. The real answer was never which one wins on average. It's did you include everything? The version of this comparison that includes everything is the only version that actually means anything. If this gave you the real picture instead of the thumbnail version, hit like before you go. It genuinely helps this reach the people who need the honest version instead of the highlight reel. Subscribe if you want more of these. Real math, no agenda. Every week. And drop a comment. Are you team real estate, team stocks, or are you doing both? I read every single one. See you in the next one.